Alright, first of all, we are going to discuss the expenses. And within the expenses, we are going to discuss the accrued expense and the prepaid expense. And let me give you a flavor over here and then we can go through the slides. So accrued expense is the expense that belongs to the current year. Belongs to the current year. When we are saying current year, that means the current accounting period. This expense belongs to the current year, but still unpaid or still not paid yet. Say for example, you received an electricity bill, you're supposed to pay it, but you have not made the payment yet. So this is the accrued expense. Now there's no need to cram the double entry, just see the concept of it and then you will be able to make it. Accrued expense is the expense that belongs to the current year. So what you have to do, because this expense belongs to the current year, you're going to debit the profit or loss. And when we are debiting the profit or loss, we have already discussed it in previous lectures. When we are debiting the profit or loss, that simply means either we are going to recording the expense or the loss. So this expense belongs to the current year. That is why we have debited the profit or loss. That means recording the expense in the current year statement of profit or loss. And the second element of it is that this expense is still unpaid. When it is still unpaid, you are going to credit the liability. You are going to credit the liability. This accrued expense is in fact your liability because this is still unpaid. Okay, let's talk about the prepaid expense. Now, prepaid expense does not belong to the current year. Does not belong to the current year. That means it belongs to future accounting period. But paid in the current year in advance. So you see, prepaid expense is the expense that does not belongs to the current year. This is not the expense of this year. And this expense belongs to some future accounting period. It can be any immediate period or, for example, any other period. But paid in the current year. This expense has already been paid in the current year. Now, based on the definition, we are going to make the double entry of it. This expense does not belong to the current year. So let's assume if it is made part of the total expenses, then you have to remove it. You have to remove it. That means you're going to credit the cash because it has been paid, or expense in the case when we are saying that this expense is being made part of the total expenses, because this is not the current year expense, so you have to remove it from the other expenses. In order to remove it, you may be required to credit the expense. But again, this is only the case when this expense is being made part of the current year expenses. Otherwise, the simple entry is going to be credit cash. And the debit entry is you have made the payment in advance, but you have not received the services related to that. Let's assume you have paid your internet bill, but you have not received any service related to that. Now, how should you account for it? If you have made the payment in advance and you have not received any services regarding it, then you are going to debit the prepaid expense. And remember, this prepaid expense is going to be your asset because you have the right to receive those services now. You made the payment, you credited the cash, and now you are supposed to receive the services. When I am supposed to receive the services, when it is my right to receive the services, because I have made the payment, then the debit entry belongs to the asset. So remember, accrued expense is the expense that belongs to the current year, but still it is unpaid. That is why it should be recorded in the current year expense, debit profit or loss, and credit liability because it is still unpaid. The prepaid expense is not relevant to the current year. That is why we are going to remove it from the total expenses if it has been made part of that. Otherwise, the credit entry belongs to cash. And debit prepaid expense, because you have made the payment in advance. Now you have the right to receive those services. When you have right to receive something, that right is recorded as an asset. So prepaid expense is going to be recorded as an asset. Now if this thing is coming to your mind at which asset it is, so simply it is the current asset, because you are going to receive the services considering within 12 months. Similarly, if you have the accrued expense, it is going to be a current liability, because it is supposed to be paid within 12 months.